And I'd like to welcome you here on behalf of Making Sense to one of our conversations to build and strengthen the field of youth economic opportunities. And we're very pleased to be collaborating with Digital Divide Data. I'd like to introduce Michael Chertoff, one of the co-founders of DDD, and Luck, who comes all the way from Cambodia to join us here. Making Sense provides these regular, open, safe learning spaces to enable practitioners, policymakers, funders, and researchers to exchange lessons learned, innovative ideas, promising practices that can help inform programming, policymaking, and partnership building within this field moving forward. And we like to in a very collaborative way. And so before kind of making any more formal introduction, just wanted to share that we have a really diverse audience here. We have people from a lot of different NGOs and consulting firms and researchers, and so we're looking forward to being very actively involved in the discussion. So how it will go is that we're going to start with a video, and then we're going to have a little bit of an interview dialogue. I'll be interviewing them, and then we'll open it up for questions. And so to get started.
So sure. I thought one way to really get grounded in the work that we do and the difference that it makes in youth is to take us on a journey to Cambodia and to look at the story of just one of the young people, a young woman named Chai Warren, who works in our office in Phnom Penh. Actually, she doesn't work in our office. She's now graduated from DDD and has a job outside. But you'll see her story and get a sense of what is it like for her and for her family in Phnom Penh. And actually, it's in Khmer. That's subtitles, so. 500 young people like Chiron who come through our 4-year work study program. And I think we'll start with Locke telling you a little bit about how we do that.
So what we do is we use business model to help those young people, and we call ourselves social enterprise. We do business in order to help other people. What we do is we recruit the high school poor student, poor youth who have no opportunity to study in university because their parents are poor and they don't have any resource to support their kids. So what we do is we recruit them through the logical test, and because we are merit-based organization, we don't take people just only because only us want to help them. We take people that they also want to contribute to help themselves to make their life better as well. So we test the logical and also test about how much or how committed to creating their future themselves. And then we then provide like basics training, computer English training for about 6 months, and then on-job training for about 2 months. Then after that, we will allow them to work on the client project, and then at the same time we send them to school at the university. We run in 2 shifts, like 6 hours per shift. The morning shift, then they go to school in the afternoon, and then the afternoon shift they go to school in the morning. Through our program, they be able to learn the working skill, like team building, and also learn about leadership and problem solving. So they feel the confidence from working on the real project, the client project. And our business is content conversion, like or we call ourselves business processing outsourcing. Like for example, converting or converting e-book to different kind of device like Kindle, iPod, and things like that. So that's how we do. They get salary, so they can support their family and their siblings, and we also provide them scholarships so they can go on study. Normally in working, the reason that they cannot go to university, one, they don't have money to pay for the course fee. Second, because they need to support their family, so they have to work something else, work on the market or something else, try to support their family. Usually, if their family are poor, then they end up being poor because they cannot get out from poverty cycle. And DDD, we actually help them, give them opportunity to break the poverty cycle. They can help themselves, and then they can later on help their family, their siblings. So actually our model is like we train them, we give them job, give them opportunity for education, and later on, like after that, like about 4 years after they finish their formal education at university, then they will be equipped with the working experience and also have the certificate, because in Cambodia, a class certificate is the manual to get a job. So, and after that, they graduate to the better job, better pay, and like compared to the normal like graduate salary, our graduate actually had like about 3 or 4 times higher salary than.
We talk a little bit about the target population, like the age range that you look for and other characteristics?
Yeah, the age range is between 18 to 25 years old. And majority, our target population are poor youth, poor students, and also disabled people, like disabled youth, and orphan, and also sometimes the women who was in the trafficking business.
And how do you recruit?
We have different, like in Cambodia we have our partners, CIST, we used to call it CIST, now they change their name into Hospital Memory. In partnership with them, they will be the one who go to rural areas in Cambodia, provide testing, and then bring those youth to their center in Phnom Penh, and then provide with basic training for us. In Laos, we have we do ourselves because we don't have anyone to partner with. So our social mission team will go searching for people. At the beginning, we do get people to NGO like International Handicap and things like that. But later on, we become popular, so people just word of mouth, and they just come and submit their application. In Kenya, we also do the same as Laos. Our people go to the slum area and recruit people.
And Michael, could you talk a little bit about how's your target population always been this, or has it changed?
So along the way, we've made a strong commitment to recruiting 50% young women. And so through our whole workforce, and we've tried to mirror this in our management team and our board as well to really have a gender balance in the organization. What's changed over time is that we started in Cambodia seeing that there were so many young people who were being trained by organizations in English skills and IT skills, and they couldn't find a job. And we started to source from many different organizations there. And what we saw over time was that there were some young people who really thrived doing this, and it was really the right opportunity. And there were other young people for whom this probably wasn't the best opportunity, and primarily because of their level of education. And so as we've kind of gone through this, we've really looked at the level of education and also the motivation and commitment. It's hard work doing data entry. I did this when I was in college. I did cost accounting data entry, and I saw both kind of the opportunity for how it was my first job working in an office and how much it was something that changed me. But doing this for 6 hours a day and then going to university and then figuring out kind of how do you make this life work, and particularly in Cambodia, the young people who come from rural areas into the city, and they're trying to figure out how they can send some money back to their families, they're trying to figure out how to navigate life in a big city. It's hard, and what we've seen is that we really need to do some of these screening tests in advance, not only to see that they're coming from a poor family, but that they have both the skills and also really the character, the fortitude to be able to go through a 4-year program like this. And so we had at one point worked with women who had previously been trafficked, and we saw that for many of them, they had an education that was just at the primary school level in Cambodia, and that it really didn't make sense for us to work with those populations. We now still work with some women who are at risk, but we do have they have to have at least a high school education, and they have to be literate in their own language before we're going to start to teach them to do work in English.
And DDD is a social enterprise, right? And so helpful to hear, why did you decide to organize it as a social enterprise as opposed to a nonprofit? Has that contributed also to sustainability?
So, as I said, when we started, what we saw was that there were many skill development programs, many training programs for young people. And when we talked with them, what we heard is that they wanted to find a job, and there were very, very few jobs around. And we realized that if we were going to try to tackle this problem, that we needed to figure out how we could create jobs in a sustainable way. And so from the beginning, we had this idea of taking the same kind of business that was, at the time, was really flourishing and taking off in India and still has continued to grow in India and the Philippines and also in China, and to say this kind of business process outsourcing can happen in many different places, and the same skills, the same kind of abilities that young people have in some of the countries where this was flourishing exists in other developing countries. And so from the beginning, we really designed DDD to be a business. Our initial structure was to do it as a nonprofit, and we looked at getting philanthropic money to get started. But the design of it was to run as a business. And from the get-go, once we started in 2001 in Phnom Penh, our first client was Harvard University. We got a contract to digitize historic issues of the Harvard Crimson student newspaper to help enable them, Harvard, to get that online so that people could search those archives. And within 6 months, we were earning enough money to cover the operating costs of the organization. Today, it's changed. What we've moved to is what we call a hybrid social enterprise. And so we're still a nonprofit in the United States, but we're a nonprofit, and then the nonprofit owns a for-profit company, an LLC, and then that owns some of the different organizations within DDD. And so increasingly, we've moved to operating even more as a business in the countries where we're working.
Talk a little bit about maybe some of your key drivers for success within the social enterprise model, like in staffing, administrative things, and maybe mistakes along the way. What have been some of those lessons learned? Could you share?
So I think a couple things that have really enabled our success. One is that we've had a whole set of people with skills and talent at the beginning who volunteered their time or came at really just covering their costs to be able to spend time in Cambodia and spend time in Laos to be able to help to jumpstart this enterprise. And young people who had finished who were just recent undergraduates, who had finished business school, who had degrees in computer science, who came and helped us to get this started in Phnom Penh. And I don't know that we could have really done this without bringing in those skills and abilities. And even people, when we started, some of the original Cambodian founders traveled to work with a firm in Delhi in India to be able to learn the skills to do this. And they've also kind of volunteered their time and their effort and have advised us over time to be able to do that. Now, as we've grown, and it's been 10 years, what we've seen is that we still need those business skills in order to keep growing our business. And being in a technology business, our business keeps changing. So what we've seen has been critical is to hire ahead of the curve. And so before we could really afford the kind of salespeople that we needed at DDD, we've had to go out and we've had to find salespeople who knew this industry and were able to sell into this industry. Before we thought we were really able to afford someone who was the chief technology officer and could manage the kind of networks and software platforms that we have within the organization. We've had to go out ahead of the curve and be able to get people like that into our organization. And that's something that we're still seeing that we need to do because we're competing against organizations that are $50 million companies, $100 million companies, and going after the same type of work, and we need that talent in our organization. Other things that you think have been key to being successful?
I think it's commitment and also the desire to build a strong company for the next generation of local managers as well. Because it's very rare in Cambodia and Laos that you have those the technology company that provide a job opportunity, the kind of job that people can access to technology. So actually, the DDD actually provide not just only the job opportunity, but empower people to feel comfortable and also too comfortable and at the same time feel confident in the technology and feel that they are not have a big gap. They don't have digital divide gap with the others developed countries.
I think another key change has been at the beginning, as a group of Americans and Europeans and Australians who were doing this, we had a sense that we would start this and then Cambodians and maybe later Lao people would take ownership of it and run with it, and that we'd be able to go away and do something else. And I think 5 or 6 years into it, we had a real shift in our thinking that we are an international organization, we're an international company, and we've committed to being a team. Luck, who joined us 2005 in Laos, is an example of someone who didn't join kind of as an operator, but came as a professional, joined us to do financial management, and is now a member of our senior management team as a CFO. Our managing director in Kenya, Amala Nweno, is Kenyan, who has worked in the US, but ran businesses in Kenya, and she's come to join us and also be part of our senior management team. And we've realized that in order to do this, we have to navigate all the different cultures in which we're in. We have to understand our clients and business environment, and most of our clients are in North America and in Europe. But we also have to understand how to navigate in Cambodia and Laos, because our workforce and the youth that we're working with are there. And if we don't understand the culture, if we don't understand how to support and develop them and how to treat them appropriately, we're not going to be successful, because we count on them to deliver our business every day.
This is a very market-driven approach of how to achieve sustainability, which is a huge challenge within our field. Do you have any tips for those organizations and programs that want to achieve sustainability, and any other words of wisdom you can share?
So it surprised me, as someone who came more from the realm of education and nonprofit space, how much we've had to change to really function like a business. And if I had to estimate the amount of time within our organization that we spend on kind of nonprofit activities and developing kind of educational development and measuring impact versus the amount of time that we spend understanding our product lines, figuring out how we do our business, understanding our clients, we probably spend 5 times as much time managing our business as we do on our social mission activities within DDD. And so it's been, for those of us who came from the nonprofit world, it's been a whole shift in our mentality. And we brought in a whole set of people into our organization who had never worked in a nonprofit before. And they knew operations, they knew how to sell, they knew how to run a business in the way that we're now operating a business. And so for many people who come from the NGO world or the development community, it's been a real shift to be able to make this work, but it's what's made us successful. And I think will continue to help us to grow. Thoughts about that?
Even though we are focused on the business, we still balancing our social mission activity. We still we don't just let it go. We spend so much time on business, at the same time we also spend a substantial part on the social part as well. So
How do you market your services to both the youth clients and also your business customers? Are there different hooks for each, and what have been some of your transferable learnings about doing that?
So one of the things that we've seen as core in marketing to youth is the opportunity to go to college. And we've really, one of the things that we've learned recently, because we did some studies and we thought about possibly ways of potentially changing our model, is that we've developed a brand in Cambodia, and I think now even in Laos, that young people know that if they come to work at our organization, that they have the opportunity to get a degree. and it's by and large why people come to us. What's been interesting is that as we've measured our impact and gone back and surveyed our graduates, what they tell us is that that's why they came to DDD, but 4 or 5 years later, the most important part of their experience was the work experience that they had in the organization. And it's had us kind of question, it's very clear that going to university is a marker and helps people to get a job. It's not really clear the quality of the education that they're getting and what kind of skills that they're getting in local universities. And so we're continuing to look at that.
Back in terms of the financial aspects of the model, what are those drivers? What keeps it?
The main driver for our model, I think the business revenue. The business revenue is the main driver, and we actually measure our success based on the business revenue. I mean, in the different areas, like for example, the social mission and HR, they also measure their performance based on their goal and their target. But in overall, the whole company, if we say how much we success or we achieve today is actually based on the bottom line, how much profit that we made. And we have like all sets of measurement, especially we also based on revenue per hour. We like track our expense, our P&L, and everything we very precise and very monitor everything carefully. And in the operation, and we have even daily, weekly report to make sure that everything is on track.
How do you look ahead to see kind of where we're going as a business? We have long-term plan. Like we have the medium goal, long-term goal, and what kind of resources we need in order to achieve those goals, and what kind of investment, and what is the future planning in terms of the financing. Yeah, one of the things that's been an interesting dynamic in our business is that, first of all, as a social mission, when we hire young people, we really make a commitment that we're going to employ them over the 4-year period. And it's been challenging to be able to navigate that as a business. And so one of the things that we see in our business is that we're selling work that we may not do for 6 months or a year. And so we've developed a report called our Triple B report, our bookings, our billings, and our backlog. And what this helps us see is how much in advance have we sold work that we can deliver over the next 6 months and over the next 12 months to understand, is our pipeline full? And are we going to be able to keep everyone busy within the organization? Because if we have downtime, if people are idle and they're not working, first of all, it's not great for morale. It's like, well, we're losing money. And so it's been really important to have as a barometer to understand how many months ahead we've sold that work, and where do we have months, maybe 2 months from now, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, where some percentage of our staff is going to be idle, and we know we've got to figure out how to fill up that pipeline.
Do you have to report back to like a board or stakeholders?
We do. We have monthly dashboard that summarize all the key indicators in the business and also the social mission indicator. They compare with our budget, like how far we off the budget or how exceed or how profitable we are from what we plan. We actually monitor everything carefully and make sure that everything is on track, and if it's not on track, what is the problem and how can we improve it. And in the area that we know that it's not that we're not going to make it, how can we like revises or changes. For example, if we don't think that we're gonna sell more, or if we have some problem with the project, for example, the client doesn't send the output input to us as they promised, and then we need to think about how can we, be flexible in terms of look at all our expense, how can we revise and reduce, maybe we have the future investment activity maybe that we reduce. So we try to revise and make sure that our business is on track.
Yeah, so as a management team, we look at our financials monthly, and Luck sends out a report to all of us on the management team. And we'll typically have a call around it to understand. She'll do some analysis in advance, and often by the time we get it, she's already on top of it. If she sees we have too much receivables, she'll figure out how are we going to our clients, and also how are we going to some of our philanthropic donors who made commitments, and how are we bringing that money into the business. But then we also have a board of directors. There are now 12 members on our board of directors, and many of them with experience in business and in venture investment, working in developing countries, who are watching our finances, watching the direction of the organization, helping us make good decisions about growth and our strategy, and also how we're decisions about building our team.
Well, how do you make decisions about growth and replication? Like, at what point do you decide that it's the right moment to go into a new context?
So 2 years into our history, in 2003, we were about 60 staff in Phnom Penh, and we were covering our operating costs, and we decided that this was a model that we could bring to other places. And it wasn't clear if we were really ready, but we thought we were ready, and we started training some of our team in Cambodia, and looked at where else we might work in Cambodia. One of my colleagues wanted us to go to a very rural location in Cambodia. He called it the Thatched Hut Dream. And he took me out to this very rural community where there was a small computer school. And I looked at it and I thought it was the Thatched Hut nightmare. And ultimately we decided that we would start work in a secondary city in Cambodia, in Battambang, that's in the northwest of Cambodia. And then we also went to, we looked at a few different countries in the region, but ultimately decided that Laos would be a good place to work. And we recruited 2 people from Laos to come and train with us in Phnom Penh and to learn the business and how we did things. As we started operating in 3 different locations, we discovered that everything became 8 times more complicated. And it was enormously challenging for us for the next 2 years to look at how do we manage this kind of operation, how do we communicate among our offices. It was just telephone communication was still difficult in the region between the offices, and it was very, very challenging, and we weren't sure that it was the right thing to do. Ultimately, we made it work, and then it's taken us several more years before we were ready and had the appetite to expand again. 2 years ago, we started doing some feasibility work to look at the possibility of expanding again, and then through some very generous grant support, we decided to expand to Kenya. And it was in part to see, could our model work in a very different place, and how replicable was our model outside of Southeast Asia. But the other piece that we've seen over time is that our model has been very dependent on international sales. About 80 to 85% of our revenue has come from clients in North America and Europe. And we had a hypothesis that we could become even more sustainable as an organization if we could sell into a local market. And in Kenya, we had a sense that, in part just because of a larger population, a larger economy, and also the kind of thriving tech business community that was happening in Nairobi, that there was an opportunity for us to be selling in Kenya. And so we opened in April there. We're seeing that there are a set of new services that we're offering to companies like agricultural supply firms in Kenya, to tourism companies in Kenya. We've developed a new service called digital marketing, where we're managing Google AdWords campaigns and Facebook advertising campaigns, search engine optimizations, things that there's a whole set of firms who do that work in the United States and in other developed countries, but hadn't really been offered in Africa. And we're really the first firm to be able to offer this locally for African companies. And so it's been very, very exciting to start to pioneer a local market. And still, a large chunk of our business so far in Kenya has been international work.
What are some of the key success factors and also perhaps some of the challenges related to the replication and scale that you've experienced?
I think the piece that's been so key to being successful has been leadership and really finding the right people to lead us forward. The Lao woman who helped us to open in Vientiane is extraordinarily talented, and Mai helped us really reinvent our model from just running a business to looking at how we were really developing the young people that we hired to have leadership skills, to help them to be empowered not only to find a job after they left DDD, but to look at how they were doing things to make a difference in their families and in their communities. And it really shifted the social model that we had at DDD. Similarly, in Cambodia, there were two young men who had started doing the data entry work and had shown real talent and real ability. And we trained them, and they helped to write their own business plan, and they moved out to Battambang, and they started hiring young people there. And again, very, very quickly, they showed that they could run a profitable office with 40 people, and today there are 120 people in the office in Battambang. And so it's really been finding the right people. And we searched for a long time to figure out the right partner, the right leader in Kenya. And it was only once we found the right person who had the business skills, had the local knowledge, and also had the commitment to what we're trying to deliver in terms of our social mission that we really felt ready to go forward.
Well, how do you measure the impact of your success?
From the beginning, we felt that the strongest measure of the impact were the jobs that young people had when they left DDD. And we started surveying the graduates to understand how much money they were making. And we saw very consistently they were making 3, 4, 5 times as much as young people typically would in entry-level jobs in Cambodia. We started to see that we were making a difference. And that was our best proxy for it. More recently, we've looked at how can we really get a more fine-grained understanding about the difference that we're making. And we started surveying all the people who started DDD as trainees, all the people who are currently working in the organization, and all the people who graduated. And we haven't been able to quite capture everyone, but we've tried as much as possible to do them. And we look at measuring the difference that we've made in their lives in terms of their socioeconomic development, not only their income, but also the types of jobs that they have, and also the impact that their earnings make on their family. One of the things that we learned, for instance, is that after working at DDD, on average, our graduates save about $60 per month. And so that's a huge difference from the point where they started, where they were barely able to save anything. We also measure their skills, and so we look at their English skills, their technology skills, the soft skills that they've developed. And we also look at their personal development. And for all of us who've worked in Cambodia and Laos and seen the difference, the way people change their time at DDD, this is the most striking difference. We see young people who were not at all confident to speak up, to be able to raise their voice, to be able to suggest new ideas. Young people, when they come to work within DDD, typically have a very fatalistic attitude about life, that whatever kind of, their parents have told them, whatever their family's position in the community, whatever the, situation they were facing was their lot in life, and that they did not have the ability to make decisions and choices about their life direction. And what we see is this transformation that happens through 4 years of work and also the opportunity to go to college, that they feel a sense of ability to make decisions in their life, ability to decide that this is the kind of degree that they want to go for, that this is where they want to live, that this is how the role that they want to take on in their family and community. And that's probably the most visceral change that we see among people at DDD. And now we have some, through these surveys, we have some measures of that.
I'd like to open it up now for questions.
Let's see, if I can ask Chue, thank you for coming and presenting. It sounds like an amazing enterprise. Just one, in terms of, as you market your services, how much do you put your social enterprise aspect on your sleeve, and so how much does that incorporate in your price? Are you going at the low end, are you looking at the medium end, and then marketing yourself as a social enterprise? How does it help you in terms of marketing to North American clients? And then just a second question, how much does the NGO part subsidize or support the LLC? Is it just in the startup and beginning operations, or is there ongoing support once it's up after that 6-month break-even point?
So we see the work that we're doing is much more of a business-to-business market than a business-to-consumer market. And so whereas many organizations who might be selling into a fair trade market can see that there may be some price premium, what we've seen is that for the work that we do, there typically isn't a price premium. And so we need to be competitive with for-profit organizations who are delivering the same services. That said, what we find is that our social mission often gets us in the door. And so if we can attract the CEO of an organization, or the CFO, or the person who's at a high level in their organization, who sees some value in working with us, either in their value chain or in terms of employee engagement, or just in kind of feeling good about working with a firm like ours, that is sometimes, at least gives us the opportunity to get work. But in order to really get the sale, we need to be competitive in terms of price and also in terms of quality. And we also need to overcome a hurdle, because most of the people who are purchasing our services are used to purchasing these services from companies working in India and the Philippines. And we have to convince them that we can source their work reliably in locations like Kenya and Cambodia and Laos.
So in terms of financing, we actually separate in the different set between business operation and NGO activity. So most of our business operation is actually funded by revenue generation from the client project, and the social part is actually funded by the grant or donation. So at the moment, 60% is we generate from business and 40% from donation.
Any other questions?
Just to follow up on that, so you're saying that nonprofit grants and so on are paying for things like the scholarships?
Scholarship, capacity building, training, and also all sort of like career path counseling, and because when people come to us, they have no clue about their future, about their life and everything. We help them and guide them to their dream. You know, they probably see people and saw some of the people who have opportunity to be accounting, to be accountant, to be manager in that company, but they never even dare to think about there to be in this position because of the lack of opportunity. When they come to us, we ask them what is their dream, and then we try to help them. If you want to be this kind of if you want to have this kind of professional in the future, what kind of school that you need to go, and what kind of skill that you need to develop to working programs. We also provide the internship opportunity within the professional, like if someone wants to graduate as an accountant, we also have the opportunity for them to learn about the skill. When they graduate, they can actually work on this profession.
Yeah. And so one of the things that we do is ask ourselves hard questions when we're doing something. Is this a business expense? Is this something that another company doing our line of business would actually do? Or is this something that we're doing as part of our social mission, and we're doing this because we're a nonprofit? And so if we're doing a management retreat, we think about, should the travel costs and should the hotel bookings and whatever, should that be something that's carried by the business, or should that be something that's carried by philanthropic support. And anytime we separate in our P&L, we kind of separate out what are those social costs and what are those business costs. And we try to be kind of honest and rigorous with ourselves about that.
And also our board is looking at what kind of the expense is supposed to be in the business, and they are quite strong on that. If anything is related to business, we cannot cover by donation. We need to discern what it is.
And our donors ask that, our individual donors and our institutional donors ask those hard questions too. We do look at, to this point, we've looked at philanthropic support as our growth capital. And so, for example, to finance our expansion into Kenya, we had philanthropic support. But one of the pieces that we're now looking toward, as we are increasingly sustainable as a business, is what's the opportunity to go after impact investment and to be able for those business growth costs to be able to take some kind of patient capital where we would be able to pay back or give someone equity in the business.
You run two sets of books, then one for the nonprofit and one for the LLC. Do you run two sets of books, one for the nonprofit and one for the LLC?
Actually, we just started LLC last year, and right now we still done. The last board meeting we have a lawyer come to talk to us about the structure. We feel like, we don't want to think about that yet. So right now we still on one book. But in the future, after we clear about the structure, what is the legal
Right.
implication, then we will have to separate. For Kenya, we will this year we will have separate book on it.
Yeah, so we've asked this question before about whether we should have separate books and separate out the nonprofit and business. We haven't to this point. There's been kind of a separate evolving question about our corporate structure and to what extent are we sort of one enterprise versus a set of related businesses. And our legal structure has moved ahead, so we're now a few different legal entities, the U.S. nonprofit, the LLC in the U.S., and the entities in each country. We've continued to manage it as financially as one integrated entity, although we do reporting for each office. And so,
Do your separate offices, or they LLCs, or they businesses, or for-profit?
so yeah, it's an evolving process.
Yeah, we have a for-profit in Kenya and Laos, but in Cambodia we still non-profit.
And some of it, you need to look at kind of what are the local laws and how is it, kind of what are the possibilities in each country and how can you work most advantageously.
First off, great presentation. Thank you very much. Kind of a twofold question, kind of related. The first is, how do you decide on sort of course content? It sounds like by virtue of the hands-on training that you do through your business model, that's an obvious answer. But in addition to that, how do you decide kind of what types of skills you're going to provide? And then the second question is, it sounds like you have a certification process or some sort of degree. Does that fall under sort of the nonprofit end? And do you work very jointly with sort of the Ministry of Education, or how did you go about doing that, I guess?
Sure. So the first part, in Cambodia and Laos, young people before they start typically go through about 6 months of training, and there the training is very much a set of basic skills that we think that will prepare them for life as well as for work at DDD. A big part of that curriculum is learning to read and to write and to speak in English. Another big part of that program is basic computer skills. They spend some time practicing their typing skills, so their typing comes up to speed. And in Laos, because we run the program ourselves, we've actually trained many more people in that program than we employ at DVD, and so it's a free training program, and we try to hire some of the best of the people who come through the training program. In Cambodia, we work with a partner. In Kenya, we really haven't had a training program, although we've worked with partners who do some training. before they come. Once they come to DDD, we completely outsource the university program. And so we've identified a set of colleges and universities in each country which we think provide a reasonable quality education, and they can choose which is the degree program that they want to enroll in. And so we constrain it a little bit. It needs to be, like employers here in the US, we say it needs to be somewhat related to what your work at DDD, but they might decide to study computer science, they might decide to study English, they might decide to study finance and accounting. So there are a range of things that they can do. At the beginning, we would sponsor any kind of university program, and so we had people who were studying to be veterinarians or to do agriculture. And what we decided was that if you're coming to work at DDD, this should be because you have an interest in doing this kind of work, and so we'll support you in an education that's related to this type of work.
So I have a question kind of related to that. Can you tell a little more about your screening process with the youth? You said it's both on their actual skills and education, but also their motivation. What does that look like, especially when you're going out to different areas and recruiting youth?
So we've learned a lot from our partner. Our partner is a French organization, that started doing this work in Cambodia. And after working with many different NGOs for a while, we decided that they had a very rigorous system for doing this. They go out to something like half of the high schools in Cambodia and rural areas throughout the country once a year to do a recruiting process. And they let people know about their program, which both trains people for working at DDD. They also do other training for systems network administration. And they tell the young people and their families that this is an opportunity for you to learn these technical skills, for you to have a better income in the future, for you to go to college. But in order to do this, here are the set of requirements, and you're going to need to move from your rural community and relocate to Phnom Penh for the training. And then your employment may be in Phnom Penh, or with DDD, it might be in Battambang also. And so they do a lot of information sharing, and then they do some screening with these written tests. They do a math and logic test. They also do a speed and accuracy test. Once they do an initial cut to see young people who qualify above a certain score on these tests, then they start to do a more fine-grained process of understanding about these young people. And they'll do a set of motivational interviews to see, are these young people who are serious and really have the commitment, they feel like they have the perseverance to be able to go through a program like this, to move away from their families, to come through the training program and to attend college and to work. And they also do a home interview. They want to make sure that this isn't the daughter or son of the provincial governor who's coming into the program. And so through that process, they do they put together a score, kind of a rating score. They take that all together and from all of their interviews and testing throughout the country, and then they look at the whole pool of young people that they found, and they make some choices about who are the most appropriate to come. Initially, what they found through their process was that it was maybe 80% young men, and we've pushed back and we've said it's important to be finding enough young women through this process, and they've done some, looked at how do they reach out and reach out to a greater population so that they've been able to find a real gender balance among the young people that they're recruiting. But it's a fairly rigorous, thoughtful process that they use to find the young people who are from very disadvantaged backgrounds, but who really have the ability to be successful in the program, either in our program or in the network administration program. We've taken that methodology, we've looked at adapting it to Laos and also adapting it to Kenya.
But right now in those places, you're not necessarily that rigorous yet.
We're not quite that rigorous, and we're also not recruiting as broadly in both locations. You want to talk about the recruiting invention?
Most of the recruiting is around outskirts of the Vientiane. We are not be able to go to the province like our partner in Cambodia, because they also have funding. Like we share the cost, like DDD share half and then they share half, but in Laos we don't have the resource. So we try to do what we can do. So most of the recruitment is around Vientiane area, but we still find a lot of rural youth. Similar to the way that CIS in Cambodia does for us in Cambodia.
And in Kenya, we started much the same way that we originally started in Cambodia. We have a set of organizations that are partners who we recruit from. Some of them are microfinance organizations. Some of them are organizations that are training youth. And we've communicated to them the kind of young people who we're looking for. And then they refer candidates to us. They still take the same tests with an interview process. We test their typing speed, their speaking accuracy, the math and logic tests, but they don't go through the same training program. And so we're really, what we're seeing in Kenya is that the skill level of high school graduates, particularly in Nairobi, is actually much higher than the skill level and the ability that we found in Cambodia and Laos. And of course, as a bilingual country, they also come with English skills. And so that's really enabled them to start without the significant investment in training that we've had in Southeast Asia.
I wanted to sort of follow up on something you said when you were responding to the impact and measuring of the success. It's very interesting how, you mentioned that from the beginning you've been surveying the participants in terms of the types of job that they get and the higher higher income that they receive, as well as the surveying them for the different types of skills and personalities. So just in sort of in that light, how are you sort of capturing that particular data? Because it would be very powerful to show, so much emphasis placed on impact evaluation. Is this part of something that you are developing that could be shared, within the community, or is it still ongoing?
So sure, well, we'd love some help on that. So this past year was the first year that we implemented the survey, and so we have some baseline data. And what we've been able to do with that baseline data is to be able to get a sense of how do our current trainees compare to our graduates who've gone through the program before. But what we're really excited is now in this coming year, we'll repeat it and we'll have year-over-year data, and we'll be able to start to make comparisons over time with the group that's going through DVD. And we've done some initial analysis on the data that we gathered in Cambodia and Laos. We're just looking at how do we start to implement this survey in Kenya for our current staff. But we haven't really come up with kind of the reporting format for how do we share that data. And I think as we do this a second time, and we have 2 years of data, we're going to need to develop the ways to report on that.
Yeah, it sounds like you sort of touched on it a bit already, but what kind of previous exposure to computers and ICTs do incoming students typically have? How much does it vary between different sites?
It's very much. Some of them, they don't even come from the area that know even electricity. They don't even doesn't know how to switch on the lights. So it's very, and also in some people, some of them they also expose a little bit just to see, but not be able to touch.
So it really varies. I would say some of the kids we recruit from rural areas in Cambodia have virtually no exposure to computers before they start. And the kids in Nairobi from the slum areas, almost all of them use computers, and that's been something that they've been exposed to. So. But they pick it up really quickly. It's amazing.
Any other questions?
You expect to expand beyond where you are now?
So we do. We sat together as a senior management team this week here in Washington and started looking ahead as a business, and we're looking to grow to become a $10 million business, to be employing maybe 2,000 people or more. And beyond looking at Kenya, we've looked at the possibility of expanding to Vietnam. And we'd like to expand to other countries as well. And we see that there are really two ways of doing it. That's one of the reasons why I was particularly excited to come here and Washington, where I know there's so many of you are working on similar kinds of ventures and work with youth development. What we see is that for us to be able to do this in other countries, that we're going to need to work with partners. We're going to need to find other organizations who know the cultural context, the business context in those countries, who have a commitment and long-term commitment to working in those countries, can help us find the local talent we need to run a business like this, and can help us tap into local markets, because we think that we're going to be able to grow faster if we're able to sell into local markets in the countries that we work in. And so if any of you or your organizations are interested in this kind of model, we'd be excited to talk with you about it. We also think that we're not going to be able to do it all by ourselves. And one of the things that we've seen over the 10 years that we've been doing this is that there are a whole set of other organizations who are doing this type of work separate from us in other countries. And we've been so excited that the Rockefeller Foundation has looked at an initiative to develop this sector that they call impact sourcing. How are organizations doing this kind of business process outsourcing work with the goal of empowering people at the base of the pyramid and employing and empowering. And so we know, I don't know, probably 50, 60 different organizations who are working in Africa and South Asia, in Latin America, who are doing this kind of work. And increasingly, we want to follow the path of the fair trade movement, and we want to say, this is something that could potentially, be a multi-billion-dollar segment of this industry that could employ hundreds of thousands of young people in many different developing countries, and that this doesn't just have to be a business that's employing college graduates in the Philippines, that it can be an opportunity in many different places in the world. And so whether it's it's directly in collaboration with what we're doing, or whether it's just inspired by what we're doing, and someone takes a seat of the idea and goes off and does it on their own, we're really excited about that, and we want to do everything that we can to kind of encourage and support people in moving this forward.
When you get your graduates into creating their own businesses, or most of them are like co-op jobs?
Some of them have their own business, and some of them try to start like small computer center.
What we've seen as we've looked at kind of track people over time is that typically when they first leave DDD, they go and they find another job. But where we've seen more and more starting their own businesses is after a second or third work experience. Now we have graduates who are 4, 5, 6 years out, that they've been the ones who've started to start up businesses. One of the things that we're interested in, and may also be another opportunity for partnership, is we know, they've worked for us for 4 years, and so we know them fairly well. What's the opportunity to develop the entrepreneurial skills and talents for young people who have English skills, who have computer skills, who know what it's like to be in a medium-scale enterprise, to be able to start their own businesses and to support them in that.
If there aren't any other questions, I'd just like to thank you both. Please join me in. And welcome you all to stick around for another few minutes. There's more coffee, juice, food, and please exchange cards. And please also complete the evaluation form, which I'll hand out now, which is very helpful to us. Actually, I'm also going to pass around the agenda to my bios.